angel came to see Mary. She was doing laundry, and then the angel just appeared and she was really scared. So Gabriel was like, Mary, you're gonna have what? I can't say it good. Mary, you're gonna have a baby. You're gonna have a baby and you will call him Jesus. And then Mary was like, I'm not gonna have a baby yet. I'm only a teenager. I'm not married. Then the angel Gabriel told Joseph that Mary is not lying. You are having a new baby. And so they met up. They went to Bethlehem, which was Joseph's old town. They ride a donkey. I don't know. A camel. Oh yeah, a camel. She said, this donkey's fast. They tried to go to a hotel and they asked the keeper for a place to stay. The keeper said, we have no rooms. Literally no rooms. So Mary and Joseph walked away sadly, but then he said, the only place here in Bethlehem that you can stay is a stable. And then he just pointed the way and they followed. When the shepherds were taking care of the sheep, then they saw angels. The angel said, a new baby is getting born, who is King of the Jews. The angels were singing, glorious. And then the shepherd said, I think we should go there and meet him. The second, I think, said, yeah, I agree with you. And the other said, yeah, me too. They had to walk through a bunch of grass and bushes, maybe have to camp out a night. And then the wise men heard about it, and then a star appeared.
We should probably follow that star. It's pointing down to the barn.
So maybe we should follow it. Maybe. So the wise men went to Jesus.
They gave them gifts.
A stuffed animal, like a hippo one, that I have at home.
Some diapers, and some wipes, and some milk, some shoes, some Jordans.
Gold ring and Latimer.
And I don't know how it would survive in that barn. Too stinky, too crowded, and ugh.
I think he probably pooped because the room was very smelly. Thank you for coming.
He's adorable.
He's gonna be our best friend.
I love you, and you're the best baby I ever seen. There, I said it.
The new baby is gonna change the world.
There's something about kids telling the Christmas story that just brings back all the wonder you had when you were younger, right? Isn't that really what we're trying to capture and recreate for our kids, that kind of wonder, that kind of joy? I want to tell you a little story. When I was young, my mom, I don't know, maybe you guys are like this. You guys have moms that like go all out on decorating. I mean, this is like every single room has to have something in it, everything. Raise your hand if that's your family. All right, mom was this way, everything. I mean, we're making winter wonderland everywhere, and this is out in California, so, you know, she's trying to make it all as changed as possible. Dad would bring in box after box after box, and we would work all day, and we all had jobs to do, and we knew what we were doing because we did it every year. Mom did the tree. She put snow on the tree. I don't know how she did it. I've never seen a tree like this. It's like the coolest tree ever because Mom did it, right? Your mom's cooking, Mom's tree the best. And you could see the lights through it, kind of glowing through them. Some of them blink, not all of them. Can't stand all the lights going on and off at the same time, like the little ones. Every once in a while, Mom did that. I don't know how you do that. It was really, really cool. But I didn't want the tree to be the focus of Christmas because my grandma taught me all about Jesus, and I wanted the Christmas experience to be all about Jesus. So my job every year was the manger scene. That's the part I took care of. And I would clear off a shelf to the left of the tree. It was where knickknacks were. There was a great big mirror next to that. This is in the living room. You guys have a room in the house like where nobody ever goes ever, unless it's Christmas time? That's this room. You know, we hung out in the family room upstairs, but the living room was where the white couch was, and you weren't allowed to eat on the white couch. You weren't really allowed to sit on the white couch, other than Christmas time. So this is the room that we decorate with the tree. I had the shelf, and then there's this mirror. Now, we put lights around the mirror. Actually, we put lights around everything. I mean, there's so many lights that you could probably land a Boeing 747 in the house. So we put the lights around the mirror, and I engineered it in such a way that when it got down to the bottom, I hid all the lights on the bottom because I didn't want any of them to be seen except for one. I was able to get one poked through a yellow light. It always had to be a yellow light, and then I would tape that to the top of the barn of the manger scene, so that you would have this candle light look on Jesus' face and on Mary and Joseph. And then it was done. Once I got that and all the pieces set exactly in the same place every single year, that was the manger scene. And my hope was that the attention would be on the manger scene, on Jesus, on what this really is supposed to be all about. Now, my favorite time was when it got late at night, which was easy that first day because we were just working all day, exhausted. And all the lights are off in the house other than the Christmas lights. Of course, it's not all that dark, but it's beautiful. And I'm sitting there. This is after others maybe have gone upstairs to watch TV or they've gone to bed, and I'm sitting there alone. And I did this every night for several nights every year. This was my favorite time. It's silent. The lights are all on timers, so I don't have to worry about turning them off. I just go in and I sit on the sacred white couch, and I just stare at the tree. And the snow, we never had snow, so that's closest I had to snow. And the snow on the tree. And I'd look over at the manger scene and I would stare at it. And the wonder of Christmas was felt in those moments. Each night, I'd steal away a moment to just sit there and take it all in. This is Christmas. This is what it's all about. I felt closer to God in those moments than I ever had. I loved that time. And that lasted, like I said, several days, sometimes an entire week, maybe even more. But then something happened. Something happened. Something was added to all those decorations. Now, nothing was added to the tree. Mom wouldn't allow that. I wouldn't let anyone touch my manger scene. Nothing was added to the tree, to the manger scene. But something was added, and it happened under the tree. I think you know what I'm talking about. The gifts started to arrive. Presents started to arrive. Mom started to wrap them and place them under the tree. And for whatever reason, the focus of sitting on that white couch, enjoying the wonder of Christmas, changed to, I wonder what I'm getting. I wonder what's in those boxes. Now, I know my mom, and I know what she does. I mean, she does the same thing every year, and you probably have moms like this too. She holds back the big gifts. I don't mean size-wise, the big gifts, right? The toys, the good stuff. She puts out, clothes. She's so mean. She puts out clothes and places those under the tree, and even worse, are socks and underwear. Why in the world would you give kids socks and underwear? Because my mom loved giving gifts. This was her love language. So she would wrap up all this stuff, and I just knew their socks, their underwear, their clothes, but I counted every single one of them because I wanted to make sure that there were more Jeffs, or when I was real little, Jeffreys, on those packages than my sister Jody and Jennifer. I want to make sure I had more underwear than them. It's important. See how the shift happened? Something changed, right? It's crazy, but it happened. Something changed from this whole idea of Christmas changing into Giftmas, and what a Giftmas it was, right? It was amazing to see, especially with my mom's love language problem, and it really was a problem. I mean, she loved to buy us stuff, and in fact, she had this huge walk-in closet that one day I stumbled upon close to Christmas time and saw this pile in the corner. And I realized I found Fort Knox. In our own home, it was right there, all those toys right there. She had this problem, and every year my dad would say to her, "You've got to cut back." Now, we never heard that conversation. We heard it indirectly as she sat down with us. Every year we had the same conversation. She sat down with us and said, "Kids, I have some bad news. We're going to have to cut back on Christmas this year." And, instead of tears running down our face, we just kind of looked at each other and smiled. Because we knew Mom's not cutting back. There's no way she's cutting back, and she never did. It was just, wow, it was amazing. This was a wonderful, Christmas morning was a wonderful, exhausting time for all of us as we opened and opened and opened. But you know what was missing in all the packaging, the wrappings? You know what was missing? The focus on Jesus was missing. The wonder of Christmas was missing. And I found over the years that it's not just the Johnson family that struggles with this. It's all of us. For whatever reason, we somehow, trying to recreate this Christmas experience, have taken the things that are not bad. I mean, the things that we want to do, we want to love our kids, and we want to love our friends and family, and we've taken them and we've placed them, in a sense, directly in front of what Christmas is supposed to be all about. And when the gifts arrive, things that we want to bless others with, things that we want to, an experience, right? I mean, we want our kids to experience what we experienced. There's nothing wrong with that. But what we find is, after a while, the focus shifts from Christmas to Giftmas, and even if it's a really cool Giftmas, we've kind of lost what the wonder is of Christmas. It just gets all covered up, doesn't it? And so the question becomes, what is it that we can do to bring Christ back into Christmas? What is it that we need to refocus our attention on? How do we get Giftmas back to Christmas and put Christ back in there? That would be our question, right? That's our struggle. And again, the gifts themselves are not bad. I mean, there's really cool gadgets and toys. In fact, I'm getting something that I am really looking forward to. I don't know if you've seen those 3D where you put them your phone and you get to get lost in that experience of whatever. I've only done it once and almost fell over, but it's going to be cool. I'm really excited about it, and so tomorrow morning, unless my wife took it back because she thinks it's silly, I'm getting that, and that's going to be cool. That's fun. Nothing wrong with gifts, right? But what do we do to make sure that this doesn't happen, that the wonder doesn't get covered up of Christmas? And I think the way that we actually need to approach this is to look at Christmas through God's eyes. Instead of sitting on the white couch and trying to get that experience again and get that wonder back, what if we just ask God, what is it that you designed Christmas to be? What do you see? What is it from your perspective on your white chair? You don't see sitting on a white throne, right? What is it that you see Christmas is supposed to be all about? And can we take that perspective? Can we look through your eyes and see Christmas? I want to share a story in the Bible that's very, very familiar, and it's oftentimes one that we think is a side story to the Christmas story. Mary and Joseph, that's the main story. They're approached by an angel. They're told, you're going to have a baby. Joseph, come on, don't put her away. You got to take her as your wife. This is really of God. This is the main story, right? You got to travel to Bethlehem because of the census. If there's no room, you got to find a place. You find a stable to have the baby there. That's the main story, right? This is the side story, we think, and it goes like this. After Jesus was born in Bethlehem in Judea, during the time of King Herod is Herod the Great, Magi, those are wise men, or what we would say are counselors to great kings. Magi from the east come to Jerusalem and ask, where is the one who has been born King of the Jews? We saw a star in the east and we've come to worship him. So the question for us is this the side story? Is this part of the main story? And the reason why we treat it sometimes as the side story is because, quite honestly, we don't know when the wise men arrived. Think about this. When Jesus was born, a star appeared in the sky. And that star was the announcement, right, that the child is born. It's going to take a little bit of time for these wise men to get over there. We don't know how much time, but we know it wasn't Christmas night. And yet, we place them at the manger scene, and we place them in our hearts at Christmas time, and maybe it's supposed to be there. Regardless of when they arrive, maybe this is intentional by God, that this is part of Christmas, that this is important for us to know. Because think about this. Who placed the star in the sky? I mean, realize this, there were men in the East who were all into astrology and astronomy, and they were watching the sky. And when a star appeared of this magnitude, they knew exactly what it meant. And they came, at least they sent their wise men, their closest counselors, their trusted advisors. They sent them with great gifts, greater gifts than my mom, if you can believe that, greater gifts than my mom provided. But the question is, who called them? Who asked them to come? Who put the star in the sky? It was God. God did that. God said, come. God wants them a part of the Christmas story, which makes us ask the question, why? What is so important about the Magi coming? And think about the gifts that they presented him. Verse 10 says, when they saw the star, they were overjoyed. On coming to the house, they saw the child with Mother Mary, and they bowed down and worshiped him. Then they opened their treasuries and presented him with gifts of gold and of incense and of myrrh. Is it possible Is it possible that maybe God wants Christmas to be about gifts? Could that be why these expensive, very expensive gifts were laid before Jesus? Maybe this Christmas is supposed to be about somehow presents. We're seeing this through God's eyes, not our own eyes. From our own perspective, gifts sometimes can cover things up, but maybe it's supposed to be about the gift. Maybe that's the point. Maybe he wants us to treat Christmas, or at least draw attention to the fact that there's a gift. And it's a pretty cool gift, and it's a pretty big gift. You see, God, when he sits on the throne, doesn't just look at the tree or doesn't just look at the manger. He looks at us, and he sees in us a need. He sees us struggle. He sees that life is hard, and he knows that because we have allowed sin to enter into our lives. Sometimes we choose it, sometimes we receive it from the consequence of others, but we have struggles in our life, and he knows that we have tried to do the right thing, and we've struggled to even accomplish the little steps we try to take to make things right and to do it right. He understands that. He's heard our screams, even if they're inaudible. He hears them inside as we cry out and we say, this pain is too much. He sees the things that we dabble in. He sees the addictions we struggle with, and they're various, and they are vicious. And he knows. He knows. And that's why he's responded the way he's responded. And he says, I have a gift for you. Now, you have friends probably that have looked at your life, choices you made, lifestyle you live, and have said, look, you've made your bed, you've got to lie in it, right? And you look at your own life and you say, I get that, I know that. I have done things that have caused this, and I deserve this. I made my bed, I have to lie in it. I have to suffer the consequences of the choices I made. I get that. But God has a different story for you. God says, yeah, you made your bed, and from your perspective, you think it's bad. Think about my perspective. My perspective is through a lens that's holy. I see something even worse than you see. I get it. You've made your bed, and it's a bad bed that you've made. In fact, it is a low bed. It doesn't even deserve to be really called a bed, what you've made. It is so low, it is like, it's more like it's more like a trough. It's like a horse's manger, something that you'd put cheap straw in, something in a stinky stable. That's the kind of bed you've made. That's what you should lie in. And God says, no, I'll put my son there instead. I'll put him there in your place. You see, the gift of Christmas sounds like this. While they were there, Luke 2 says, the time came for the baby to be born, and she gave birth to her firstborn, a son. She wrapped him in cloths and placed him in a low, flimsy, cheap, almost broken, straw-filled, dirty, smelly stable that you deserve, because there was no room for them in the end. That's the story of Christmas. That's the gift. The gift isn't a child. The gift is God's Son. The gift is all the hope and all the peace and all the freedom and all the forgiveness and all the repair and all the reconciliation and everything you need to put your life back together in this child, because the child himself is God's Son. And it's not just that Jesus arrives. That's what we think Christmas is all about. Jesus has finally come. That's really good. Jesus has finally come. No. Jesus has come to give his life. It's the gift of his entire life. That's why he experiences birth. He didn't just show up in the clouds and step down onto earth and say, here I am. He was born. He's experienced every temptation and every pain and every hurt and every longing. He's experienced hunger and sleep deprivation and being betrayed. He knows what it feels like to be hurt. He experienced life all the way to death. The gift is his life of God's Son is our gift. Why? Because we've tried to live this thing and we've messed it up. Because we've tried to live this thing and we can't do it right. Our past haunts us, our present, we have struggles, our future is uncertain, but what I do know is that there's going to be more things that we struggle with. We are in trouble, and God has seen from His throne the couch that He looks at us from and says, I got to give them something. I will give them my life, a good life, a life lived well. From birth to death, I will give them a life that I wanted them to live, but they're unable to live. I'll give them my life. I'll give them a full life, a right life, a life lived well. And then Jesus went to the cross so that He could become our substitute there, dying in our place, so that at the cross, Jesus could trade our life for His. So that His good life could count for us, so that when God sees us, He doesn't see the past, He doesn't see the hurt, He doesn't see the wrong. He sees His Son. He sees a righteous life in us. That's the gift. And it's such a cool gift. 2 Corinthians says, God made Him who had no sin to be sin for us, so that in Him, we might become the righteousness of God. We become the righteousness of God. The present that He gives is really cool. This gift that He has handed us is really big. You see, this gift is a gift of forgiveness. And this gift is a gift of grace. And this gift is a gift of salvation. And this gift is a right life. The life you were supposed to live, but He lives it for you. And so even at Christmas time, we ask you to come to the cross. Because while He came into this world, and we celebrate Christmas because He was born, it's at the cross that life He lived in your place was traded. And all the wrong you did, and all the hurt you did, and all that you struggled with was placed on the cross and suffered there. And He gives you His righteousness. If you've never come to Jesus, I'm going to invite you to consider this. Think about this. Pray about this. I've never surrendered my life. Maybe that's the greatest Christmas gift you could give your family, for them to just know that you now have traded your life for Christ's life. You've given it to Him. Isn't that awesome? So I'm going to ask that if you've never done this, maybe there's somebody here that has invited you today, this evening. Will you talk to them? And say, hey, how do I do this thing? How do I give my life to Jesus? They would love to share that with you. And if you've never done that, maybe you just need to come see me and talk to me. Say, Jeff, I don't even know you, but I want to know this Jesus. Let's talk about it. I want to pray for that decision. Before you leave tonight, talk to me or talk to whoever invited you. Let me pray for you. Father God, we're all in need of this gift. And we're so thankful that you provide it for us. We desire our life to be traded. We desire our life to be given in exchange for what Jesus lived, the perfect, right life. And God, whoever's struggling with that decision today, I just pray that you give them peace to know they have finally found an answer to all the hurt and all the wrong. This is the beginning of the healing. This is the start of a new life. This is where hope is born. This is where living forever begins. This is where life purpose starts. I pray that not a single person will leave tonight without turning to someone and asking, how do I get to know this Jesus who gave everything for me. God, we're praying that for the rest of us who continue to struggle because you're still perfecting in us, you're still working in us, you're still changing us, that we would be renewed this Christmas and have a renewed hope that you are the God who changes hearts and minds, and you're the God who heals even when we can't see answers. May we be encouraged again, just knowing that the right life was already lived in Jesus Christ and it's being exchanged for our own. Thank you. In Jesus' name.